Viewer discretion is advised for this video as we may end up discussing something that could be disturbing and graphic. So 18 and older, please. Thought I'd get that out there, because you never know what we're going to talk about right here when we're talking about true crime, right, you guys? How are we? How we been? Let me check in with everybody. Check out what you guys are saying in the chat. Tell me if this is the Kouri Richins that wrote a yes, it is. She bought a mansion and tried to steal the husband's money in the safe, which had been her sister's look. But yeah. This is the same one. This is the one that wrote the children's book, supposedly authored a children's book after she had unalived her husband, allegedly, because she hasn't been convicted yet. And they're diving in today. We're going to dive into. We just started working on this case together. We've been into all of those that have been here with us before. We've been doing nothing but Sarah Boone. So for my channel, this is only the third video on Kouri Richins. So we're still kind of learning what's going on a little bit. She was, let's see, the first video we did, we kind of did an introduction to the case. And now we're going to get into, I think the second video was about the parents. I can't remember. But now we're going to dive into this whole financial thing. See, there was a hearing on August the 20, hang on. It was in August of 2024. They had a hearing. Now, there was supposed to be a bond hearing this past month, and they ended up moving it to, I think it's the 12th. But because she's trying to get out on bond since her trial's been moved back to next year. So in August of 2024, that's kind of when they had their preliminary hearing. They're presenting all the evidence, and the judge is going to rule on whether or not this can go to trial. Obviously, it ruled on that it could go to trial. But what I found interesting about this particular hearing was more so what the forensic accountant said, because she gets into everything that doesn't seem right about the financial side of it. Now, my video that I'm going to open up with here is going to have a little bit of an introduction to it. Let me just make sure you guys are okay in the chat. Oh, let me ask you really quick before we get started. Does my microphone have a hissing, kind of a staticky sound to it right now? I've been having problems with my microphone, and I'm not sure if I need a new one or not, or if it's the connection. Could you guys tell me if it sounds funny? Hi, Margaret. No hissing. Okay, thank you. Sometimes it does, and it drives me crazy when I go back and listen to it. And I can't, because I can't hear it now. All right, let's get into this. By the estate of Eric Richins. And eventually, when the prosecution asked her to work with them, she then the prosecution called up their third witness in the hearing. Her name is Carrington. She's a forensic accountant. Quick note, CPA versus forensic accountant, big difference. She had also testified at the detention hearing. Now, they did bring up that she had originally been hired by the estate of Eric Richins. And eventually, when the prosecution asked her to work with them, she then ceased that contract with the Richins family and began working with the state on the account. Now, she's reviewed bank accounts, insurance documents, loans, email communications with the loan and insurance applications, and all that back on, going all the way back to, I think, 2018 on their accounts. She said they had various accounts. There was one under the Kouri Richins realty account, and Eric did not have access to that. There was one that was both of their joint accounts, which was like their household and family expenses. There was a third that was Kouri Richins' personal account. And then, of course, there was an account under Eric's business, C&D Masonry. Now, they made a note to mention that in April of 2019 is when Kouri began her business. She was a licensed realtor, but she primarily purchased homes, fixed them up, and then flipped them. And in April of 2019, that was when it was a nice housing market. The interest rates were low. The market was booming at that point. She also noted that the premarital agreement between Eric and Kouri basically said that the C&D masonry property, business, money, all that was to be maintained separately from their marriage. That was part of their premarital agreement. The only thing that would trump that would be if Eric had died, then Kouri would have access to the business. Now they're starting to dive into. We know that the state has alleged that Kouri was taking money that Eric was unaware of, and they've brought up that, okay, if you're going to buy and flip houses, you need money, you need cash quick, and you need to be able to purchase the houses quick. And they brought up the fact that there was a home equity line of credit that was taken out on their home in March of 2019. Now, what is interesting is that the home itself, this is the home that they lived in. Eric was the sole owner of the home. But in March of 2019, there was a loan application that was signed by Kouri referencing power of attorney in regards to a line of credit against the home, like a second mortgage type thing. So it's getting deep. We're starting to dive into all this now, and we're going to see exactly what's going on with how she was able to kind of move funds around. This is actually what I find to be most interesting of all of the evidence they have. This is damning evidence.
I'd like you to take a look at now. Lost control. See, it's always right here. We do have it in here. I think we have marked them as State's Exhibit 70 for the court. I'm going to approach the witness.
Of course.
I'm not sure she has State's Exhibit 70.
Go ahead.
Can you please just describe or the title of that document for the record, number 70?
This is the Willow Court Loan Advances and Payments.
Okay. When is the first withdrawn that home equity line of credit?
It's March 26, 2019 for $60,000.
When is the next withdrawal?
August 5th, 2019.
Could you describe the next couple of withdrawals on that?
Following that $2,100 in August, there are a series of withdrawals for the next few months.
Okay. In August, is there more than one or just the one?
There are several.
Okay. Does that strike you as important for today's
Yes.
cases? Would you explain to the court what you draw from that?
Beginning in August of 2019, this is around this time is the first property that Ms. Richins purchased after obtaining her business license. It's a home in Heber City. As far as I know, that was the first home in Utah that she flipped.
We have State's Exhibit 71.
Mr. Bruce, are you offering state 70?
Yes, yes, I will be offering State 70 and 71 as summary charts.
Okay. Is Nestor any objection?
No, sir.
Okay, 70 and 71 are admitted.
Could you read for the record the title of 71?
Encumbrance and Real Property Chronology Trust Deed Summary.
So what, does that help you state for the record what that first transaction was and where? And
Yes. It's the 550 house. The first warranty deed involving Kouri Richins Realty was August 1st of 2019.
Now, I'd like to portray that in another way. Did you prepare a timeline bar chart?
Yes.
Does it depict much the same information, just in a different way?
Different format, yes.
Would that be helpful in conveying your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. The state would offer State's Exhibit 69, and we're just going to build the first chart, which is the
Is Nestor any objection?
No, sir.
State's Exhibit 69 is admitted.
That's the whole PowerPoint. I'm sorry.
It is, but I've only laid foundation for the very first.
Got it.
Is that the chart you were just referring to?
Yes.
And so, can you just explain for the judge how this chart works?
Sure. I think you've seen this before, and the colors don't mean anything. They're just to distinguish one line from another. I've just got the years along the top and the months, and then going down the different properties just as some sort of an illustration to depict when properties were held at any particular time.
And then within each bar is the address of the property purchased?
Right, and so if you wanted to know what was held in June of 2021, you could draw a vertical line to see which properties were owned at that time.
I see. Okay, so any more purchases in 2019 by Kouri Richins Realty?
Not that I know of. There could be others, but this is what I have been able to compile.
How about in 2020?
2020, yes, there were others.
Okay, how many purchases by Kouri Richins Realty of property in 2020?
I think there were just the 5.
Now, is there one that stands out to you?
In 2020,
Yes.
not particular, well, the Franson Lane one toward the end of 2020, in October of 2020,
I
the
see.
Franson Lane property in Oakley.
I see. Let's drill down into the Franson Lane property. You said, when was that?
It was acquired in October of 2020.
Is it different from the previous 5, I guess, counting 2019?
Yes,
In what ways was it different?
it was a more robust project, more ambitious project in amount. You know, it was. I think she acquired it for 1.3 million, and the others had been somewhere in the neighborhood of like $300,000 or $500,000.
Did she require money, outside money
Yes,
to make this investment?
yes.
What sort of investors?
They were hard money lenders.
Do you know who they were?
Yes.
Who are they?
Sierra West Capital was the primary lender, which is this, as is the case on several of her properties. And then there were other investors who contributed the funds basically for the rehab.
I see. Was there something else different in this application that you garnered from all the financial records?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
That's the way I roll. Okay. Was there something else that you found in reviewing all of the documents, not just the loan documents, that distinguished this purchase as opposed to the ones that had gone before it? Involving, all right, how about this? Do you know if C&E was involved in this project?
CME was involved in this project.
Okay, and what did you discover about C&E's involvement?
After the acquisition of the Oakley property, the Francis Lane property, C&E, there were several checks from C&E that were deposited to the Kouri Richins Realty account. And they specifically have a memo on them that tie them to this property. And so over the next, between October and when this property was sold in March of 21, there are a series of checks. I think there are 6 or 8 checks that are about $133,000, I think.
Was this property ever sold?
Yes, it was,
When?
in March of 2021.
Okay. What happened to the proceeds from that sale?
This was a property where the net proceeds were about $466,000, which came into the Kouri Richins Realty account, that 6577 account. And then from that, $217,000 was paid directly to C&E. And then there were some other payments, transfers out from the account that were associated with this property as well, and left her with about, around $200,000 in net proceeds.
In your examining of all the evidence in this case, were there other things that you looked at to inform your examination that took place in October of 2020?
There were other things in October of 2020, yes.
Did you take a look at State's Exhibit 22? Are you familiar with that document?
Yes,
Could you explain what it is?
this is an intake form from a divorce attorney describing that Eric Richins was wanting to consult with this attorney on a potential divorce, and it's dated October 8th of 2020.
In the wake of that, are you aware of any other instruments that were created out of that?
Yes, there are the notes that the attorney appeared to have handwritten during the course of that first meeting.
Were there financial arrangements made after that meeting that you're aware of?
Yes, the notes indicate that there was some new information by Mr. Richins that there was the HELOC had been taken out on the home, that as if this was new. And then from this, he set up the Eric Richins Living Trust and also a will.
Was there something dramatically different about the trust situation as before?
Ms. Richins was not the beneficiary of his estate. It was to be for his children, and the trustee was going to be his sister, Katie.
So I'd like to go back to I think it was 70. Should be the HELOC loan balance below 50%. By August of 2020, what was the balance?
August of 2020, 246,931.
Okay. Is there a significant, well, up until that point, how, was there money being paid on that debt?
Yes, they were the interest-only payments. The minimum payments were about $900, $1,000, something like that, that were made every month.
Did something different happen in October of 2020?
Yes,
What happened?
there's really the first significant payment, and it's $50,000 on October 12th.
Do you know what the source of that fund was?
Yes, Ms. Richins had sold the Cleveland Avenue house in Salt Lake, and from that she received net proceeds of about $63,000. There was a transfer, and then this $50,000 was sourced from that.
On October 12th.
Yes,
Bringing the balance to approximately what?
$196,000.
Do you know whether in October she was in a financial position to just pay that $196,000 off?
She was not.
Let's go into 2021. I guess we've still got the timeline up. Direct your attention to timeline. And could you describe for the record a summary of what purchases, et cetera, took place in 2021?
Yes. So she acquired a property in Heber City before she got the proceeds from France and Lane. And then after that, she acquired a number of properties throughout the summer especially. And then ending the year acquiring 3 on the same day in November. And I think there may be another property that she was working on that I don't have on here, but all in all, she had about 15 properties in 2021.
So, did she go to the same lenders for all of these 15 properties?
No, there is some consistency in the lenders, but she did diversify a little bit.
Okay. Can you tell the court some of the lenders that you found that she used?
So she primarily used the Sierra West, and that's pretty consistent through here. And those investors who would have been taking second, third, or fourth position were pretty consistent as well.
Those are like Cockerhands?
Cockerhands, Ellis, Soto, Lieb, there's a number of them.
Okay.
And then she also went to a company called Iron Bridge, a company called Boomerang. She did 4 projects with Boomerang.
So let's take, first of all, when did she go to Iron Bridge and when to Boomerang?
Those were in the summer of 2021.
And Iron Bridge, how would you describe what Iron Bridge is or does?
They appear to be a hard money lender. The terms are somewhat more flexible than typical hard money lenders, but the interest rates on that loan, I believe is 13%. Was 13%.
And in 2021, is that high?
That would be high, yeah.
So, how did the application process go between defendant and Iron Bridge?
There is an original application that is submitted. It appears to be online. I don't know that for sure, but it appears to be online. And then there was a series of emails back and forth where the person analyzing the loan or underwriting the loan is asking her to submit some additional documentation.
Okay. Can you take a look at State's Exhibit 58, please? State's Exhibit. Is that what you were talking about? Some email going back and forth between Ironbridge and the defendant?
Yes,
Okay. Is there something about a bank statement in there?
yes. It asks for personal bank statements, the most recent.
Okay. Based on your experience and training, why would they want to know that stuff?
Typically, they'd call that proof of funds. They want to, they need to verify, in banking terms, it's KYC, know your customer. Every financial institution needs to know and verify the individual and entities that they're dealing with.
I'd like you to take a look at State's Exhibit 59, if you would. What is State's Exhibit 59?
This is a secured promissory note for what I call the 299 house.
I'm muted again. Sorry. No, I was just saying that they said that when she sold that first house, she profited like $200K, and then she paid back like $270,000 to C&D Masonry, his company, which means he would have known that she owed him money, which made me think that he knew that she had done that line of credit. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Now, just to run over this really quick. He did at one point go to the divorce attorney. He visited them. He decided to stay in the marriage for the kids. They're saying that he decided to stay in the marriage for the kids. And when he did that, he went in and set up that trust with his sister's name on it. And Kouri had no idea that he did that with the life insurance. Okay. Back to the thing.
In Heber, Ironbridge.
And first of all, this is Kouri Richins Realty purchasing this. Is that what it?
That's right. And I misspoke. This is 10%. I misstated the interest rate earlier.
And what is the amount that they're loaning?
$346,500.
When?
This is in July of 22. I'm sorry, July of 21. Sorry. It's signed July 7th, 2021.
Now, did you examine a bank statement from Ironbridge purportedly given to them by the defendant?
You mean from Ironbridge, meaning?
It was obtained from Ironbridge, so but submitted to it, that it used to.
It was part of the Ironbridge loan information that we received, yes.
Okay. Would you take a look at State's Exhibit 11, please? What is State's Exhibit 11?
This is America First Credit Union bank account statement for May 31st, 2021 for Kouri Richins Realty, account number 6577.
And do you know where this was sourced from?
This was sourced from Ironbridge, as indicated by the number on the top.
Okay. And how do you know it's Kouri Richins Realty?
The header on the bank account statement purports to be Kouri Richins Realty.
And then in the body of that statement, does it give the amount in the bank account?
Yes.
What is that?
The summary of the accounts for the three accounts that are included in this bank account statement is $210,898.61. That's the ending balance.
So I'd like to direct your attention now to State's Exhibit 12. What is State's Exhibit 12?
This is the America First bank account statement for Kouri Richins Realty for that same month, May of 2021, for account 6577. This is the actual statement that we received from America First Credit Union.
In what way is it the same and in what way is it different from the State's Exhibit 11?
The header is the same, but the body, the transactions that are contained are different.
What is the total balance?
The total balance is $15,609.
All right, let's take a look at State's Exhibit 13. What is that?
This is the actual bank account statement for C&E Stone Masonry, ending in 7664. This is the document that was received directly from America First Credit Union.
And how do you know it's C&E's?
The header indicates that it's C&E's, and the transactions appear to be consistent with what C&E would be doing. And it matches the bank account statement that Iron Bridge produced, but it has the different header on it.
So let me make sure I understand this. 11 has a header from her account, Kouri Richins Realty, but yet the body of C&E's May 31st bank statement.
That's correct.
I'd like you to take a look at State's Exhibit 60. That's 60. I believe that's an email exchange, is that right?
That's right.
What's the subject?
Quick question.
Okay, and is the quick question physically below the response? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the quick question?
This is from Mr. Caney, I don't know how to say that, from Iron Bridge, emailing Ms. Richins asking for an explanation about her credit score, the credit cards, and referencing that bank account statement.
Okay. Is he perplexed? I mean, what
Check
is,
speculation.
Sustained.
specifically, what does he say to her?
He says when he first ran credit, it was lower than expected. There were some delinquencies on the credit cards, but he can see from the bank account statement that she provided that she's got plenty of money in the bank to cover expenses.
How does she respond to that?
Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please. Can you just read what she says to that question?
She says, hi, Richard. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. Yes, sure. Everything is paid off now. It just probably hasn't updated. I recently learned about all of this as well, LOL. And then my husband decided to explain to me that this was his doing a while ago. We are in the process of separation for one of many reasons, but this is one of them, to keep it short and sweet, LOL. It's been crazy to say the least. I look forward to working with you guys on our first and hopefully many projects.
Okay, you said she obtained some loans from Boomerang 4, I believe you said.
Yes.
I'd like you to take a look at State's Exhibit 14, if you would. What is State's Exhibit 14?
This is from Boomerang, but it's an America First Credit Union bank account statement for Kouri Richins Realty, account 6577 for June of 2021.
And how do you know it's Kouri Richins Realty?
Just the header.
What is the balance on the?
The balance, the ending balance is $702,831.
Let's take a look at State's Exhibit 15 now. And what is that?
This is the actual statement that was obtained directly from America First Credit Union for Kouri Richins Realty, account 6577 in June of 2021.
The header says Kouri Richins and Realty in the 6577?
That's right.
What is the ending balance?
Ending balance is $15,339.
Okay, let's take a look at State's Exhibit 16. What is that?
This is the actual bank account statement that was obtained directly from America First Credit Union for C&D Stone Masonry LLC, account 7664 for June 2021.
And it presumably says C&E and 7664
Yes.
in the header?
In the header, yes.
What's the ending balance?
The ending balance is $702,831.
That's the same as State's Exhibit 14?
The one that was issued to Boomerang or submitted to Boomerang, yes.
Okay. So once again, cut and paste of header for Kouri Richins Realty and the data, the amount of money on hand from C&E.
That's correct.
Direct your attention to State's Exhibit 61 if you would. Could you describe for the record what this is?
Yes, this is from Boomerang. This is a document that came directly from Boomerang. It's a kind of an internal review summary of a potential loan kind of ahead of that would be prepared in the midst of the approval process.
Just a quick note, I wanted to tell you guys that she originally had a paid attorney. She had a really good attorney. And because they went into a civil suit with that money on the estate, I guess she was using his money to pay for the attorney. Then Sky something. She's a gorgeous woman. She had to go public defender. She had to claim indigency. So now she's dealing with a public defender job, or dealing with someone that's been assigned to her by the public defender.
And what was the property?
This is for the 75 East Midway House, I think. Yes. The smaller Midway House.
Okay. And in there, does it reference, well, first of all, how much is the loan amount?
The loan amount on this is $454,750.
And does it talk about the defendant's liquidity?
It does on the second page.
What does it say about it?
Let's see. It says under liquidity and net worth, Kouri has liquidity in the amount of $702,000. She has a net worth of $2,719,000 made up of cash, securities, life insurance, retirement funds, and real estate investments.
And so that number 702,000 is that same figure from C&E that she's submitted in State's Exhibit 14?
Don't remember the exact exhibit, but yes, that number is drawn from that bank account statement that was actually C&E, not Kouri Richins Realty.
Did you find any other instances where this similar type of cut and paste header with some other account is submitted to lenders?
Yes,
How many times did you find that,
I found 6 so far.
including these two?
Yes.
Now, I'd like you to take a look again at the timeline.
Yes.
Okay, so these purchases in 2021, you've already mentioned, it's 15, more and more. Did any of them sell?
Yes, great number of them did, yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
As like the Mill Creek House, for example,
Mhm.
that was acquired in the spring. That's a home in Salt Lake County. And so there was a primary lender on that and multiple investors who gave Kouri Richins Realty money for the rehab costs. And then when it was sold, most of those were paid from closing, like at the title company. Some were not. Some came out of Kouri Richins Realty's net proceeds.
So she's turning over property, isn't she gaining money by doing this?
Yes.
Okay, what's happening to her debt load?
That was increasing, especially she started in the middle of summer of 2021. She started acquiring personal property loans that they're not secured by real property and were secured by advanced, her future receivables.
Okay. Is Greengrass holding one of those?
Yes.
Okay. Turn your attention to State's Exhibit 20. So could you, first of all, tell us what State's Exhibit 20 is?
This is a revenue purchase agreement dated, it's in September of 2021.
And could you explain the basic terms of this?
This is an agreement with Kouri Richins Realty and then some other companies pledging $87,000 of advance receivables for $60,000 upon execution of the agreement, and e-signed by Kouri and Doreen Kouri.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. So she's saying, I will give you $87,000 of money I haven't earned yet, but I'll pay it to you in the future if you give me $60,000 now.
Yeah, and what's represented here that it's been earned and it's going to be coming in, but it's not in yet. And so she's saying, I'll pay you back $87,000, $60,000 now.
I see. Okay. And what did it obligate her to pay?
$5,438 every week.
Did she pay that?
For a series of payments, yes.
Okay. How much did she pay the year worth?
I think she paid about $20,000. I'm not exactly sure the amount on there, but she paid about $20,000 and then defaulted in December.
Did something happen as a result of that default?
Yes, they filed suit in New York.
Okay, the state would direct your attention to State's Exhibit 21. Could you describe for the record what State's Exhibit 21 is?
This is the summons and the verified complaint associated with that lawsuit.
And so in a lawsuit like that, there's some alleged facts.
Yes.
So I direct your attention to page 5, fact number 11.
Yes.
And what is the allegation there?
That She did pay $21,752, leaving the balance of unremitted receivables of $65,248. And then there's default fees of $2,500 and attorney's fees of $19,574.
Did you find any other agreements or attempted agreements between the defendant and these type of lenders?
Yes, I found several.
Okay, what are they?
QFS Financial is one she entered into where she pledged $167,000 for future receivables for $105,000. That was the largest one by far. Most of them are in the $20,000 to $30,000 range.
Is Blue Bridge something like that?
Blue Bridge is one, Delta Bridge Funding, Zahav, Asset Management, Crown Funding. There are over a couple of dozen, over a dozen, yeah, about 20 or 25.
You mentioned early on that the defendant had an account with Navy Federal.
Yes.
Navy Federal, do you know what kind of account she had there?
At Navy Federal, she had a checking, a savings, and a credit line.
Okay. During the period of August to December of 2021, do you have any idea? Well, first of all, what was the maximum amount for that, the credit limit for that revolving line of credit?
That was $15,000.
For that period, August 2021 to December 2021, do you know what her balance was, relatively speaking?
Bill, it was almost maxed out most of the time during that specific review period. I would say, I think that's about $13,000.
Okay. Can you take a look at State's Exhibit 26, please? Is that a multi-page document?
It is.
Or what are they?
These are the bank account statements for the account ending in 0060, starting in July of 21. Ending in March of 22, and for Kouri Richins.
Does the statement include the balance on revolving credit?
Yes.
And throughout that time period I just mentioned, it's more or less maxed out?
Yes.
I'd like you to take a look at State's Exhibit 27. Do you know what those are?
Yes.
What are these?
These are checks from the account of Kouri Richins at Navy Federal, and these checks were deposited into the account of K. Richins Realty. I believe all of these were deposited into that account, and none of them cleared.
Let's just do an exercise in one of these. Let's take a look. What's the check number on the very first one of State's Exhibit 27?
Check 271.
And when is that?
The date on the check is 8/28/2021.
Can you find that transaction in State's Exhibit 26, which is those statements for that appropriate time period?
Yes. Yes. It's on, the Bates number ends in 99 at the top, and it was returned on 8/31/21.
So that check, and how much was that check for, that particular one?
$2,100.
And all of the checks then in State's Exhibit 27 are similar in that way.
That's right.
So now we're at December of 2021, the end of the year there. What is her financial status at that point?
All in all, with all of the property, she had acquired and sold a number of properties. She retained several as rentals. She still had loans on those properties. So at that time, it was about 4 or 4.5 million that she still owed on those. Well, the trust deeds, she had paid some on them, but there's that. And then with all of the personal property loans, it's hard to tell for sure, but I think somewhere around $500,000 or $600,000 she owed on those personal property loans as well.
Now, you mentioned that one, for example, was green grass that
That's right.
required her to pay $5,000 weekly.
5,438 weekly, yes.
Were there some that were daily?
Yes.
And how many payments did she have to make for the month of December, for example?
She made about over 90 payments on debt. You know, there's a difference. There's the debt load and there's the debt service. So she owed the amounts that I stated, and then the debt service are the payments that she paid on that debt. And they're a little, well, there's over 100 that she paid payments.
So for the month of December, how much debt service is just what she paid? Not necessarily, it could be the same as debt load, but
In this instance, no, it's different.
okay.
Yeah.
What was the debt service for the month of December, do you know?
It was over $300,000.
I'd like to take a look at, this is back to State's Exhibit 69. I'm going to move on to the next chart. Can you describe for the record what this next summary chart is?
This is the debt payments that she made
So
during these months.
once again, this is debt service, not debt load.
That's right.
Okay.
This is not the amount of debt she possessed. This is the amount of payments that she made on that debt.
Okay, and for the months of,
June of 2021 through February of 2022. And I do need to make a note that in preparing for this hearing, I've noticed that in December of 2021, I made a duplication. So we need to reduce that number by about $44,000 in December.
okay.
It's still about $320,000.
Now, in January and February, it appears to go down, is that right?
That's right.
Let's once again look at the same information and expressed differently. Can you describe this for the record? This is the third chart on the PowerPoint.
So this is drawn from that previous data. And so it's just showing it in a pictorial format.
It seems after December, it seems to be going through the floor.
That's right. These are the payments that she made on the debt. She did pay off one of her lenders, one of the personal property loans. She did pay that off in January. That was about $19,000. But mostly because of what had happened in November and December, so many transactions had been returned and not cleared by the bank. They did not. Some of them continued to try to draw in January and February, but they were unsuccessful. And so those payments were not made.
So this doesn't depict her debt load, the amount of debt she has, but rather she's just not paying.
That's correct. At least from the accounts I have. At least from the accounts that I have reviewed.
sometime around this time period, did she take on another project?
Yes, she did.
Is it different than previous projects?
You're talking about the Legacy Way project, the large house?
Oh, okay, yes. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
She, the first REPC, which stands for Real Estate Purchase Contract, was in December of 2021, and it's a very large property on Legacy Way and Midway, and that's the property that she did end up closing in March 22.
Okay, so it begins though in December and concludes when in March?
Well, the settlement statement I had seen is dated March 4th. Some documents were signed March 4th, some were signed on the 7th and recorded on the 8th of March.
How is this different from any of the other previous projects?
It was an unfinished house and just quite large, a very, very ambitious project. The purchase price, I believe, was $2.9 million.
What was its state of repair?
It was under construction, so it didn't have much inside, down to the studs, exposed wiring, things like that.
Did she ever, that you're aware of, give an estimate to lenders about what she anticipated those costs would be to rehab it?
Yes,
What was that?
her estimate was between $3 and $4 million to rehab that property once it was acquired.
And how did she obtain this property?
Through hard money lenders.
All borrowed then?
Pardon me?
All borrowed?
Yes, all borrowed.
Okay, I wanted to talk about life insurance. Have you had the opportunity to look at life insurance policies that were owned by the Richins family?
Yes.
Do you know about how many there were?
I think there were 6.
This is the fourth chart of 4 from States Exhibit 69 PowerPoint. Can you describe what that is?
Yes, these are the life insurance policies on Eric Richins' life. And I've taken the effective date. Some of them were in 2015, 17, 18, and there's the one in 2022.
Okay. And those dates, those years are the date of purchase?
That's right.
Are they different, for, I guess, different purposes?
It appears to be, yes.
In what ways?
Oh, the first one on the top is a mortgage insurance policy. So basically, it would pay off the mortgage, will pay down the mortgage. I think it's some odd amount, like 72.05% or something. But
Okay. Was there one for business?
I believe so, and I am unclear as I sit here if that's that $1 million one or not. So I'm sorry, there is one on the business where Eric and his business partner, if one passed away, then it would benefit the other and allow the other one to buy out the business from the estate of the other.
Okay, so it doesn't go to the spouse, but rather to the other business
The
partner
business partner.
to buy out the spouse.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with a company, life insurance company called TruStage?
Yes.
Is it some sort of business association with PenFed?
Yes.
To your knowledge, what is that relationship?
Well, TruStage is an insurance company, and they typically market their product to credit union members, all sorts of credit union members, different credit unions.
Do you know whether the defendant was a member of PenFed?
She was, yes.
How about, do you know whether Eric Richins was?
I know that he was not.
Direct your attention to State's Exhibit 62. And what is that, just for the record?
These are the bank account statements for Kouri Richins at PenFed Credit Union, the account 9118, for the period starting in October 2021. It's just through April of 2022.
And State's Exhibit 63. What is that?
This is a declaration of custodian of records, no records. This is from PenFed Credit Union, stating that Eric Richins did not have any accounts at their institution.
Are you aware of an application from the defendant to True Stage for life insurance in January of 2022?
Yes.
All right. Direct your attention to State's Exhibit 17. What is State's Exhibit 17?
This is the application for True Stage individual term life insurance to age 80. And this is dated the end of January 28th or 29th of 2022.
And who's applying for what in this application?
This is for life insurance for Kouri Richins and for Eric Richins.
Now, is there something unusual about the information provided, contact information for each of those two applicants?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
The contact information is the PO box that Ms. Richins used for her business. Her email address is on there. There's no email address for Mr. Richins, and the phone number that's listed for Mr. Richins is not correct.
How is it different? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes. It says 892. His number starts 792.
And then ends with the 9317.
That's correct.
And to be clear, the mailing address is the business address for K Richins Realty for both of them?
Yes, this is pre-populated. It appears to be pre-populated this way with Kouri Richins and her PO box in Camas.
And when is it effective?
This policy was effective February 2nd, 2022.
Okay, direct your attention to State's Exhibit 65. Now, before I go there, I'm sorry, I skipped over something. Early on, we talked about docket 127.
Yes,
That was, if I remember correctly, that was Throckmorton's report.
that's right.
And in there, he has how many question samples?
3 questioned samples,
And
yes.
so 1 and 2 are the power of attorney we've already addressed.
That's right.
So question number 3 is,
It's the signature on this life insurance policy.
I see. And so is your understanding what?
He calls them simulated forgeries, and that they're probably not Mr. Rich's signatures.
Okay, so now Now let's go to State's Exhibit 65. If you would. What is State's Exhibit 65?
This is a letter from True Stage Insurance to Eric Richins at that PO Box 759, dated February 4th, 2022.
And what is it informing Eric Richins of?
This is a welcome letter. Thank you for choosing True Stage Life Insurance, and talking about the premium. The premium would be deducted from the checking account 6577, which is the Kouri Richins Realty account.
Okay.
On February 14th for $46.50.
And that's an automatic withdrawal?
That is.
Okay. Have you examined AFCU account for Richins Realty? That's 6577 for December, January, February of December 21, January, February, March even of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. So in 6577, is there that automatic withdrawal that you were talking about?
There is in February, yes.
Is there any other insurance premiums that are paid from 6577?
No.
Okay. Now let's take a look at State's Exhibit 64, and I'll let you just take a look at what 64 is and 37.
What was the second number is for?
37. Could you describe for the record, what is 64?
64 is part of December. So this is an America First Credit Union bank account statement from America First Credit Union. Eric Richins account 2204. So this is the joint account,
Okay.
where the typical household expenses were paid. And it is for December 2021, pages, and it goes through, March 1st of 2022.
So looking at those, are there any of the insurance premiums that you've mentioned before paid out of 220?
The payments that had previously been made, historically been made, I should say, are paid here, but not that one.
But not the new one,
Not
just
the
all
new
the previous ones?
That's correct.
So, just a second. Have to steal my courage. Oh, okay. So we are looking at, in your chart there, I guess that you find evidence of payment of those top four in your chart?
I'm not
From
sure
the
what you mean.
2204?
The payment of the premium?
Yes,
Yes,
but not the bottom one.
that's correct.
Do you know if the defendant made any claims on those insurance policies,
Yes, she did.
particularly the True Stage?
Yes, she did.
Okay. How does the claim process work?
Mr. Burster, get back for that mic.
How does the claim process work?
A claim is made, the insurance company would initiate a claim, give it a number, and then proceed to do their due diligence.
Okay. A couple of things. Based on your experience and training with working with insurance companies, is there a convention for naming these claims?
Yes, everyone's got a little bit different process, but in this situation, there are two different claims that we can see from the information contained in the diary that the insurance company kept, and also the name, the number of the claim. We can see what date it was opened.
I see. Okay, so, in addition, is there any, are insurance policies treated differently if they're made, a claim is made on them near in time to when they're opened versus if you've had a policy intact for 10 years or something?
Yes, I worked on, I don't know, a few dozen death investigations, and what happens, every insurance company will have a different policy, but typically if a life insurance policy is taken out and there's a death of the insured within a certain period of time, usually it's a year or two, there's a standard death investigation that takes place. And I worked on many of those throughout my career.
Okay. I'd like you to take a look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit 18. Now, what is State's Exhibit 18?
This is notes for claim 2204-28003. So this would be the claim opened on opened on April 28th. It's probably the third one that they assigned that day or something.
Okay. And so that, do you know which policy this is referring to?
This one is the larger two. This is the $250,000 policy that from 2017.
Okay. And is this what you referred to earlier as a diary?
Yes.
Okay. I think we have an State's Exhibit 67. We just, at the beginning of the day, I think offered State's Exhibit 67 is.
Yes. Did you?
Oh,
I don't know.
yes, I did. It's right here.
I have.
It's Gina.
And can you identify for the record what State's Exhibit 67?
Yes. This is a similar document. This is for the other claim, number 2204-22032. So this is the claim that was opened on April 22nd, 2022, and this is for, so this first one is for the $100,000 policy.
And it was opened on April 22nd of 2022.
That's right.
Okay. Let's look a little closer then. First of all, with State's Exhibit 18, can you describe what this is recording and how it works, what this is?
This is a chronological diary, just note-taking about the date and time of a call or a contact, and just some notes. So over time, they can go back and refer to what happened and when. Now this is, State's Exhibit 18 is referring to the 2017 policy. That's right.
And it was made then by April 28th, so a week after the other one.
Yes.
Okay. In there, does the defendant ask some questions, or I guess is the insurance company asking the defendant some questions about the case?
Yes.
Do they want to know about fentanyl?
Yes. They needed the final death certificate showing the cause of death, and then they need to know if the fentanyl was prescribed.
And does the defendant respond to that?
She does. Toward the bottom, she said the fentanyl was not prescribed, so she can't give any information about it. She also added that she don't have any idea how did her husband got that. Just for the record, that's what it says. That's not my grammar.
Let's turn to State's Exhibit 67. Now, to be clear, this is the first in time request.
Yes, it is.
And the policy that she opened, and I believe was effective, you said?
February 2nd. Yes.
At some point, I think in July of 2022, is there a conversation between the defendant and the insurance company about what's taking so long?
Yes. This would be, well, there were several conversations in July. They're talking about needing the medical records from the medical facility. And then finally in August, that they say, she called to know the status of the claim. And then they said that they had received the medical records from the clinic.
Okay, I wanted to. All right, so they finally get them when? The medical records?
That's, according to this, is 8/15/22.
In the, you see the entry 822, the bottom of page 2?
Yes.
Are they talking about the medical records there at that last?
It looks like yes.
And that they received them on what day?
Well, this is when they received the invoice.
It's the invoice, the payment. All right, so do they describe what is important to them as far as this investigation in at least one of those 822 entries?
Yes. Yes. It looks like they received the records on 8/2 and 8/11. I don't know if that matters. Okay, yes, they received the 36 pages of records on 8/11. And then there's substance use other than prescribed. It's marijuana once or twice a year, and no concerns about substance abuse in the household.
I have a moment.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Who is doing the questions? Ms. Nestor, level with me. How much time do you think you have with Ms. Harrington?
30 minutes.
Okay. Do you have a buzzer?
It's by a gentleman named Todd Gabler, is that right?
That's right.
And Todd Gabler is a private investigator, also not law enforcement at this time.
I don't think he's ever been law enforcement, but that's true.
And how did you know Mr. Gabler?
We've been colleagues for 30 years or so.
And by colleagues, do you share office space? Do you work together on cases just randomly, or what do you mean by colleagues?
No, I have worked on the same cases that he has worked on. I would not say we've ever worked on cases together.
Okay. And he approached you and asked if you would be interested in working for Eric Richins' family, who was dealing with trust issues, right?
With the trust, the Eric Richins Living Trust, yes.
Who's the trustee of the Eric Richins Living Trust?
Kate Richins Benson, his sister.
And so would she have been the individual basically responsible for paying you as the trustee?
Yes.
And did you meet with her?
I don't know that I ever met with her. We had phone conversations.
Okay. And did you have a contract of employment with her or with the trust?
An engagement letter, yes.
And what did they agree to pay you to help them?
My hourly rate and,
How much was that?
$325 an hour.
And I believe you said you worked for them up until the county attorney approached you, is that right?
That's right.
So how long a period of time did you work solely for the trust?
I don't remember when I first started working for them. In the summer. It was in the summer, I believe, of 22.
So a few months after Mr. Richins had passed.
Something like that. I can get that exact date for you. Something like that. And then toward the fall of that year, they engaged in some litigation, and I was pretty much out of the picture at that point.
So maybe 5 or 6 months, you think you worked for them?
Probably 4 or 5, yeah.
And do you remember total how much they paid you during the time you were employed by them?
I think it was about $9,000.
And during that time, did they provide you with records to analyze?
I did have some records, yes.
And so these are being produced to you by Eric Richins' family.
That's right.
And that would include these life insurance documents?
I did have some. Whether or not they're this, I honestly don't remember. It includes this one. I don't think it did. There were several New York life insurance policies that I reviewed.
And do you know how they obtained those records before they gave them to you? Were you aware? You may or not have be.
I don't know.
What other records did the Richins family give you to analyze?
I had some of the C&E Masonry bank account records. I had some tax returns. I know I had some other things. I had some odds and ends. So nothing, and I do not know how they obtained them.
And then how did it come about that you switched from working from Eric's family to the prosecution team in this case?
Well, in my view, they are separate entities, separate cases, separate engagements, and I did not feel like I could work on both. And at that time, when I was engaged by Summit County, I had not had any contact, well, I shouldn't say any. I had really not had much, if any, contact since like the fall. I did have a Zoom call with their counsel where they just kind of wanted to see where I had left off, but the complaint that they filed doesn't include any of my work.
And the complaint that they filed is basically an effort to make sure that Kouri does not get a single penny from Eric Richins' trust, right? Is that your understanding of litigation?
I actually don't know much about that litigation, and on purpose, I have tried to ignore it. I try to stay in my lane and in my box, and this is the box I'm in. And so I really don't know the status. I don't know what's been happening there. My overall understanding is they were trying to enforce the trust, the Eric Richins Living Trust and associated documents. That's a weird way to say that, but that's my understanding.
And when you were in their box, when you were in the box with the trust, was it your understanding that Kouri Richins was aware that a trust had been created before Eric passed?
I was under the impression of the opposite, that she did not know about the trust. And whether or not she knew or didn't know, I really do not know the answer to that question.
So you've not reviewed any police reports in this case that talked about interviews of Katie the morning of Eric's death?
I know that there were some that took place, but I have purposely not reviewed them.
Okay, so you don't have personal knowledge one way or the other about whether Kouri knew this trust was in place before Eric died?
I cannot testify one way or another about that.
Okay. Did Todd Gabler ever give you any documents to analyze, or it all came from the attorneys at the trust?
I didn't get anything from the attorneys.
Where did you get the documents from the trust?
I believe I got everything from Katie.
From Katie, the sister?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Are you still retained in any way by the trust?
I haven't engaged in conversation with them. I haven't responded to anything for the better part of the year.
Did you review new documents before you testified today that you did not review before the detention hearing?
Yes.
What are the new documents you reviewed before today?
We have more bank account statements. There are loan documents that I did not have before, and that includes promissory notes. And I know that payment ledgers have been requested, and there's very little of that due to the nature of the loans. I searched and obtained many more deeds in South Carolina and in Utah, and the UCC filings of the personal property loans, the unsecured loans, the insurance documents. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little conversational, but at the detention hearing, it was early in the week, say a Tuesday, for example, and most of the documents, the financial documents that I reviewed, I had for just a couple of days.
Okay.
Literally.
I want to talk about these properties that you've looked at as far as Ms. Richins.
Mm-hmm.
It appears from your testimony with the county attorney that you were looking at the debt that those properties put her in. Is that right?
Yes, and I did testify about that exact point at the detention hearing, because at that time, that's all I had access to were those recorded documents. So I could see the amount of the trust deed, and I did acknowledge that that does not necessarily represent what she owes on it, but what she encumbered. That's why I'm calling it an encumbrance.
So these charts that went up dealt with what she owed on the property to the best that you could determine looking at publicly available records, right?
Not necessarily. The timeline chart that has all the colors. I mean, that has a date, well, it has a point at which she no longer owned it. Her name is no longer on that.
Okay.
And so that represents that she no longer had that debt.
Successfully flipped that property, right?
Successfully would be a judgment call, and I've not been asked to give opinions.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about equity.
Okay.
When someone owns a home, you have what the home is worth when you buy it, but then you put money down on it, you pay money towards your mortgage, and at some point you build up something called equity in your house, right?
That's true.
And when you have a lot of equity in your house, you can go, like she did on their house in Willow Creek, right? And go and say to a banker, hey, I have this property that has about $600,000 worth of equity in it. Can I borrow $50,000? And what is the banker likely to say to that?
A banker's likely to look at a lot of factors, right? Go through some due diligence. Given a lot of different factors, probably going to say yes.
Right. Because equity has value.
That's true.
And it's part of your net worth.
That is true.
So when you're evaluating someone's net worth, you're looking at their debt for sure, but you're also looking at things they have that have value.
That's true.
Their jewelry, right?
That's true.
Their artwork,
Yes.
their stocks and bonds,
Yes.
their equity and property.
Yes.
You were not asked to make that evaluation by this county attorney's office, correct? Because I don't see that you did a net worth evaluation.
I have done some. There's some holes in it. There's some holes in it, so.
Okay. So you haven't today put on evidence of Ms. Richins' net worth?
No, and there are a lot of things that I don't know, like I'm aware that she has a tax liability, and I know that I can estimate a range, but I don't know how much that is, and that would factor into her net worth.
And I know you're an experienced accountant. You would never make a statement about someone's net worth if you knew you were missing critical documents to make that evaluation. Fair?
I would definitely put a footnote on that.
Okay. As far as the profits that Ms. Richins made when she flipped these houses, unless you have the settlement statement, the closing statement, all the records, it's not always possible to tell what her profit margin was, is it?
Well, profit margins, the answer is maybe yes, maybe no. Do you mind if I explain?
Go ahead.
Okay. For example, Ms. Richins has a schedule that she had submitted to some lenders that talked about the projects that she'd done. And she included in there is the acquisition price, the rehab budget, what it was sold for, and her profit. And I've gone through a few of those, and they're not accounted for correctly. The sales price does not reflect what her margin is. You asked me about margin, and the margin is not correct. Her profit is not correct on that. What I can tell you, the answer to your question, is I do have the settlement statements on a lot of those. And the settlement statements are prepared by the title company at closing. And so that'll go down the item, the sales price, and the deductions from that, like the property taxes that need to be paid, the encumbrances, like the first trustee, the second, if there are more, some other agreed upon amount that needs to be on one side of the ledger or another. And then we get to a net proceeds amount. And then I can go to her bank account statement and I can see those funds hit the bank account statement. But the way she had borrowed money, not everybody who was involved, I use that term as not everyone who had participated financially in that project would have had a deed filed that would have them hit the settlement statement. So once the funds hit her bank account, then she also had to pay out some funds associated with that property.
So once she flipped a property, paid off everybody that helped her out to buy it or rehabbed it, whatever's left in her pocket after she pays everybody is her profit.
That's right.
And you can't say that, what that amount was on every one of these properties, can you?
Not every single one, but I can on many.
And if you, as I understand it, she was servicing some pretty major debt and servicing it, right? Sending those checks out.
That's correct.
Check after check after check, making payment to her lenders, right?
Yeah, they mostly were auto withdrawals, but yes.
And out of all those properties that you have with the pretty colors on your chart, how many of those got foreclosed on before she flipped them?
Before she flipped them? Well, she doesn't own any anymore.
So none is the answer, right?
None then.
So she successfully purchased the property, got what she needed to rehab it, flipped it, and it never went under on any of those properties, except for after she got arrested, before she was arrested.
And again, I'm gonna not use the word success because everyone's got a different version of what that term means. But I think what you're trying to say is, did she end up selling them? Yes, she did.
Okay. All right. Did you ever interview any of Ms. Richins' hard money investors?
Yes.
Did any of them, other than Greengrass, did any of them ever file suit against her for defaulting on their deal, as far as you know?
I do not know that.
All right. The joint account with Eric and Kouri that they paid their bills out of and their kids' soccer fees and things like that. Did you ever compare the deposits from Eric into that account versus deposits from Kouri into that account?
I'm aware of how much was kind of coming and going.
And who put more money in that account?
Eric's paycheck was auto deposited there, and that was more than Kouri's. There were funds coming and going, and so but they were for different purposes, so.
Disagree with me that Kouri substantially deposited more in that account than Eric did, in the joint account from her KRR account.
I don't know if I would agree with that or not, because there's a lot, there are a couple of instances where C&E, there is money coming from C&E. I will say that there are a lot of instances where there are, say, like there's a $5,000 payment from Kouri Richins Realty account, the 6577 into the joint account. But there are some instances where there's a lot of money coming from Eric's resources too.
Okay, now I want to back up just a little bit when you very first got on the stand and you were talking about the accounts, who had access or whose name they were in.
Yes.
So spouses have their own decision about who does the money, who doesn't do the money, and you were not privy to that arrangement between Eric or Kouri, were you?
No.
So you don't know if they sat down at dinner every night and looked at every one of their bank accounts together, do you?
I do not know that.
You do not know if Kouri gave Eric the password to all their bank accounts and said, babe, it's shared money, look at whatever you want to look at. You don't know if that happened.
I do not know.
You don't know how often they talked about finances or what Eric knew or didn't know about Kouri's business.
That's correct.
You do know that Eric invested in at least one property himself through his C&E account, the
Branson Lane.
Thank you.
I would not call it investing. I know that there were the C&E checks that went into the Kouri Richins Realty account.
Okay. Looks like they invested in the property. If you were just looking from the outside, fair?
I have other information that tells me that's not the case. That's why I've not included it in my testimony.
Okay. You also looked at the prenup agreement, and we all know what prenups or agreements are from TV, right? It's an agreement before you get married about how you're going to split stuff up if you get a divorce, right?
That's true.
Okay. And in the prenup that was signed when they got married, was the home contained in that prenup that you've reviewed? The home they lived in?
I don't recall. I'd be happy to look at it if you want me to.
Take a second, please. It's exhibit number, it's docket 106.
I'm skimming this. I don't recall it's in here. Is that correct?
It's not.
Okay.
Thank you for checking. So if you don't have your home in a prenup, regardless of whose name is on the title, would you agree with me that as a spouse, you have an interest in your marital home, correct?
That's,
Well, hold on. They're about to object that it calls for a legal conclusion.
Your Honor, if I can argue this because
He calls for a legal conclusion, sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you this way. You testified earlier that Ms. Richins got a HELOC on that house. Is that right?
that's correct.
Right. And you don't know if, you're not a lawyer, you're not a divorce lawyer, certainly, right?
That's correct.
So you can't tell, and I almost just called them the jury. Automatically. You can't tell the jury. You can't tell whether or not Ms. Richins had a lawful interest in that home that enabled her to put any type of lien on it or anything based on her marital interest, because you're not a divorce lawyer, right?
That's that legal conclusion.
Okay. So, and you also don't know if Eric knew about the HELOC or when he knew about it or what he did about it.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'm
Well, I think
asking.
that's what she's establishing, but you can answer the question.
I am aware that there is indicators, there are indicators that he knew about it in October of 2020.
That's right, because he told it to the lawyer that he was saying about maybe getting a divorce, right? So when he told the divorce lawyer, hey, she took out this money on my account, that was October of 2020, right? So we
And
know,
the indicators are that's when he learned about it.
right, so little less than 2 years before he passed away.
A year and a half, yeah.
And how many payments did you see Eric Richins make on that HELOC after October of 2020? In your review of every payment that was made toward that HELOC, how many did Eric make out of his account?
Out of which account?
Out of his accounts?
The 657s, or I mean the C&E account?
Did he make any out of the CME account?
No,
Did he ever sign a check for that you ever saw?
I don't believe so.
And it was coming out of their joint account or out of the KRR account, the realty account?
Mostly out of the 5244 account, which was Kouri's account.
Okay, so she's paying it, the HELOC that she took on it.
Yes,
Okay. And he knew about it in October of 2020.
right.
Okay. And they stayed together, obviously. All right. If the home was not contained in the prenup, since you did work for the trust, is it not true that the trust is taking the position that the home gets poured into the trust upon death?
I don't know.
She's just asking what Ms. Carrington knows. Let's
What-
find out.
Thank you. Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
To be clear, I think my knowledge on these issues is
Better than
superior
all of
to
ours.
that than anybody else in the room, and so I can keep it straight.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that, John, because I think the court in summary judgment motion 2 weeks ago ruled on this very issue.
I can give you chapter and verse on these if we need it.
Okay, thank you.
You can just keep it.
I'll try to skip
Which is my point, Your Honor, we
I
can get
understand. We'll just keep it.
Okay, just a minute. Just making sure I don't miss anything. I want to talk about those life insurance policies that were on your chart. If you could look at that chart in front of you, those 6 policies.
It's not up, but that's fine.
Oh, I thought you had a binder, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I can do back up.
Thank you. It's exhibit number,
Number
exhibit
69.
69, yes, sir.
Get back.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think I've got that.
Of those policies on exhibit 69, the very first policy is a mortgage policy,
That's correct.
which just pays off the mortgage if you die.
It doesn't pay it off, it pays it down significantly.
Right, sorry, you said that, 70, some weird percent.
Some weird percent, yeah.
Okay, so that life insurance policy is made payable to the mortgage company.
And as far as I know, it was paid directly to them.
Okay. And in your chart, it says it was paid to the trust. Do you see that? They were the
do not.
beneficiary?
I say they were the beneficiary, but that was, no, that's not what I said, but it was paid toward the mortgage is my understanding.
So, Kouri, and when was that policy obtained?
15.
Okay. And do you even know Eric applied for that, right? Himself?
I do not know.
You don't know.
I don't know. I don't recall.
Second policy, what's the second one?
On my chart is the $250,000 true stage from 17.
And that's 2017.
That's correct.
And do you know whether Eric, that is not one of the questionable signatures, right? You've agreed that's Eric's signature on that application.
Let's make it clear, I'm not making any determination out of signatures. That's not me.
Okay. So the report you read from the handwriting analyst
That one.
didn't look at that signature of the true stage $250,000 policy, correct?
Actually, I don't know. He looked at, in his report, he lists a few dozen exemplars. I don't know if that's one or not.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Eric Richins had to take a medical exam to get that life insurance policy?
recall. I think I've got the documents for that, but I don't off the top of my head know.
So you can't say right now, as you sit here, whether Eric was involved in getting that policy or not, you just don't know.
I don't recall. There's both of those next two. There's the True Stage and the auto owners. That was part of a group of policies where there's one on Ms. Richins, one on Mr. Richins, and somewhere along the line there's some on the kids too.
That auto insurance policy, that's the big one. That's $1 million,
The
right?
auto owners. Mhm.
And what is the date that insurance policy was applied for?
That's also in 2017.
So help me with math, 5 years before he died.
That's right.
And that $1 million policy, there's no way they're gonna insure somebody for $1 million if they don't have a medical exam. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's a fair statement, yes.
And then the next insurance policy was what day?
This is in April of 2018 with New York Life.
So that's 4 years before he passed.
That's right.
And do you know who applied for that?
I have the documents that I don't recall, I'm sorry.
And do you know whether and how much was that one for?
500,000.
And do you, again, that's pricey, bless you, Your Honor. That's a pricey insurance policy. Again, I would imagine that would require a medical exam. Do you know if Eric submitted to one?
I know that he did on a policy, I've seen that, and I can't recall which one it was. I just don't recall those details.
So that really just leaves, and the policy that he had with his partner, the buy-sell policy, which partners do all the time, right?
That's correct.
Business,
Yes,
that money goes to the partner, that doesn't go to the spouse.
they're set up specifically that way.
Right. So the only policy on there that was obtained within any short period of time before Eric died was the very last one for $100,000, right?
Right, and that's typically in my experience, that's an amount that probably would not have required an exam.
Totally agree. And that policy is one of those ones that we all get in the mail if you belong to a credit union, where they send you a little flyer, you get it in your junk mail, and it says, hey, you want to up your insurance? No exam, just sign here and we'll add some more for free. Please do that. Is that what that is?
It is a brochure from the credit union, but what you just described it's not contained in there. It was an offer of life insurance though.
Made by their credit union
Yes.
to all their credit union members. It's just like a perk for being a credit union member.
It's a marketing brochure, yes.
Here's some pretty cheap insurance, grab it if you want, right?
That would be a fair statement, yes.
And that's the policy that was taken out, I guess, that was signed to become effective a few weeks before, or a month and a half before he passed.
A month, yeah.
Okay. And again, that's $100,000 out of a total insurance amount that had been obtained years before, exceeding $2 million.
That's
Right?
correct.
Were you ever asked to look at Eric's financial records in his company or his business? Anybody ever give those to you?
I do have his bank accounts, the bank accounts for their company, yes.
And the bank accounts that you talked about where, I'll strike that. Okay, court's indulgence, I think you smelled through your, I can ask a quick question. Your Honor, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Carrington.
Mr. Burns, is there any redirect within the scope of process?
Yes. Ms. Carrington, you were asked about a successful flip.
Yes.
When, if we're measuring success as an amount above and beyond all costs that go into purchasing, rehabbing, taxing, etc. The flip. That is a measure of successful flip. Were these purchases and subsequent sales successful?
If they were sold, if that's your measure of success, then they were sold, so that would be successful. There were several instances where the investors were not going to get their money out of that particular property, so their trustee, their investment was transferred to a different property where there was room for them to be repaid.
So some of these subsequent sales did not even meet the investment that went into them.
That's right.
So at the time of the defendant's death, March 4th, what was the summary of debt owing? Do you have the figure for that?
Yes. 3 of the homes had recently, prior to Eric's death, had been sold for about $170,000 in net proceeds. And then Mrs. Richins had retained, I believe, 5 properties at that time. The HELOC was over its limit. It was at $252,000 on its balance. Her credit line at PenFed had been exceeded. Her credit line at American Hertz was not maxed out. And she had ended the year in 2021 in the hole. I think in her 5244 account, she was in the hole $15,000, and in the 6577 account, she was in the hole $22,000. There just were no resources.
When you say there's no resources, so then she's unable to service all the debt she's acquired.
That's correct. And at that time, again, it's kind of mix and match to try and figure out how much debt load she had. She owed about $4 million on, let me restate that. The trustees associated with the property that she retained were about $4 million. So she probably owed a little bit less than that. And then the personal property loans, the accounts payable loans, I believe her balance at that time was about between $500,000 and $600,000.
Somewhere then between $3 million and $4 million is her total debt load she has at the time of March 4th, 2020.
No, it would go the other direction. So she had roughly $4 million in real estate that she owed on, and then another $500,000 to $600,000 in those personal property loans. So $4.5 million, something like that.
You mentioned the HELOC in talking to defense counsel. Do you know, other than that $150,000 payment on principal in October of 2020, were there any other payments that you're aware of that were substantially beyond just paying the interest?
No, they're pretty much the minimum payments for the rest of the life of the loan.
When did she stop drawing money on the HELOC?
Do you mind if I look at my notes? In October of 2021 is the last draw of $2,300 payable to Kouri Richins Realty.
And why didn't she just take some more out of there?
Objection to speculation, Your Honor.
I think he's asking a financial question.
The balance of that account, the limit was $250,000, and as of that time, the balance was $253,199.25, so there's no room to draw more.
Did these lenders that you're aware of analyze the defendant's net worth when she was taking out these loans? Accounts receivable.
It appears, yes, they did.
Okay, so how much did she have in artwork?
I don't recall any artwork listed.
Okay, how about jewelry?
I don't recall any jewelry listed either.
Okay. When you look at the AFCU bank accounts, from which bank account were the payments made to the top insurance 1 through 4?
Those were paid from the joint checking 2204.
Okay, and that's distinguished from the last one, the one made on February 4th, or entered into on February 4th. Apparently no notice to Eric. That was paid from which account?
From the 6577 account for K versus Realty.
Ms. Nestor,
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Carity.
Wowzer. Well, okay, so she's going to go back into court. I want to say it was the 12th, wasn't it? Yeah, the 12th. Thank you, Paulette. I think that's when she goes back in they're going to reconsider giving her bail now that they know her trial's not going to go until the next year. But the thing about this one is, I think if you flipped houses and you were the type that you could get off of them really quick, that's fine. The whole point in flipping houses is you're not supposed to put a whole lot of money into them. You just kind of make them look good and then you flip them. It sounds to me like she was sitting on them way too long. Like she just didn't know what she was doing. What do you guys say that? She's just not a good business person. And if you're new to it like that, why would you start out with such high-end properties? Why not start out with like a slumlord style thing? Try to work your way up to something. I mean, my gosh, that is ridiculous. And so that I bet that's what did it for him. He was probably like, I'm done. This is, you're not bringing me down with you financially. And honestly, I could see why now he put the money in because he probably didn't trust her. He probably knew she was taking money here and there. I wonder how long he had a feeling about her and the not being able to trust her or whatever. It's interesting. But yeah, so you think she made any money on the book, you guys? I don't think she probably didn't make any money on it. By the time she paid everybody off for writing and everything else. My goodness. Well, I'm going to stay on top of this one. We've got a lot more things to watch, little pieces here and there we're going to pick up on. We got plenty of time to dive into it. I've also got a couple of days of Delphi that I wanted to put down probably tomorrow. It's the hearing. I know that the defense just rested. So they're going into closings and all that, but I'm going to continue doing what I was doing on it just because I'm interested in that case. And so I understand if some of you guys can't listen to it because it's just too much because it's children, but I'm going to continue to finish that off for everybody slowly but surely. I'm not in any hurry. Good Lord, I'm horrible. Now, as far as Courtney Clenny goes, crazy Courtney Clenny, the OnlyFans model, that's the other one I want to work on. I've actually started the first intro video on that. So be looking for that in the next 2 weeks. That one we're going to dive into. I think that one I'm going to really get into. There's a lot going on there. That girl had issues. Now talk about being close to Sarah Boone crazy. That's close to Sarah Boone crazy. Like she just didn't even care what anybody thought. And half the time, like all the videos that I've been watching of her and everything, she's like half dressed in all of them. She liked to wear like bikini tops and like a jacket over them. If she even had a jacket on, I was like, really? Like she goes to court and she's got like nothing on top, basically. It's a little strappy thing. She'll freeze her butt off in that jail. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me on this case. And if we continue to you guys continue to show interest, we'll continue to follow it. and stay tuned for more coming up very soon. You guys all have a blessed evening. Take care of one another, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and feel free to leave a comment. Have a blessed day.